but I have also listened to the Israeli security establishment. Which warned of the danger posed by a nuclear-armed Iran for decades. In fact, they helped develop many of the ideas that ultimately led to this deal. So to friends of Israel, and to the Israeli people, I say this: a nuclear-armed Iran is far more dangerous to Israel. To America, and to the world than an Iran that benefits from sanctions relief. I recognize that Prime Minister Netanyahu disagrees strongly. I do not doubt his sincerity. But I believe he is wrong. I believe the facts support this deal. I believe they are in America's interest and Israel's interest. And as President of the United States, it would be an abrogation of my constitutional duty to act against my best judgment simply because it causes temporary friction with a dear friend and ally. I do not believe that would be the right thing to do for the United States. I do not believe it would be the right thing to do for Israel. Over the last couple weeks, I have repeatedly challenged anyone opposed to this deal to put forward a better, plausible alternative. I have yet to hear one. What I've heard instead are the same types of arguments that we heard in the run-up to the Iraq War. Iran cannot be dealt with diplomatically, we can take military strikes without significant consequences. We shouldn't worry about what the rest of the world thinks, because once we act, everyone will fall in line. Tougher talk, more military threats will force Iran into submission, we can get a better deal. I know it's easy to play on people's fears, to magnify threats, to compare any attempt at diplomacy to Munich. But none of these arguments hold up. They didn't back in 2002 and 2003, they shouldn't now. The same mindset, in many cases offered by the same people who seem to have no compunction with being repeatedly wrong. Led to a war that did more to strengthen Iran. More to isolate the United States than anything we have done in the decades before or since. It's a mindset out of step with the traditions of American foreign policy. Where we exhaust diplomacy before war, and debate matters of war and peace in the cold light of truth. Peace is not the absence of conflict, President Reagan once said. It is the ability to cope with conflict by peaceful means. One President Kennedy warned Americans, not to see conflict as inevitable, accommodation as impossible. And communication as nothing more than the exchange of threats. To it is time to apply such wisdom. The deal before us doesn't bet on Iran changing, it doesn't require trust. It verifies and requires Iran to forsake a nuclear weapon, just as we struck agreements with the Soviet Union at a time when they were threatening our allies. Arming proxies against us, proclaiming their commitment to destroy our way of life. And had nuclear weapons pointed at all of our major cities a genuine existential threat. We live in a complicated world, a world in which the forces unleashed by human innovation are creating opportunities for our children that were unimaginable for most of human history. It is also a world of persistent threats, a world in which mass violence and cruelty is all too common. And human innovation risks the destruction of all that we hold dear. In this world, the United States of America remains the most powerful nation on earth. And I believe that we will remain such for decades to come. But we are one nation among many. And what separates us from the empires of old? What has made us exceptional, is not the mere fact of our military might. Since World War II, the deadliest war in human history. We have used our power to try to bind nations together in a system of international law. We have led an evolution of those human institutions President Kennedy spoke about to prevent the spread of deadly weapons. To uphold peace and security, and promote human progress. We now have the opportunity to build on that progress. We built a coalition and held it together through sanctions and negotiations. And now we have before us a solution that prevents Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, without resorting to war. As Americans, we should be proud of this achievement. And as members of Congress reflect on their pending decision, I urge them to set aside political concerns. Shut out the noise, consider the stakes involved with the vote that you will cast. If Congress kills this deal, we will lose more than just constraints on Iran's nuclear program. Or the sanctions we have painstakingly built. We will have lost something more precious, America's credibility as a leader of diplomacy. America's credibility as the anchor of the international system. John F. Kennedy cautioned here, more than 50 years ago, at this university. That the pursuit of peace is not as dramatic as the pursuit of war 3, but it's so very important. It is surely the pursuit of peace that is most needed in this world so full of strife. My fellow Americans, contact your representatives in Congress. Remind them of who we are. Remind them of what is best in us and what we stand for. So that we can leave behind a world that is more secure and more peaceful for our children. Thank you very much. One CESP. Benjamin Netanyahu's 2015 address to a joint session of Congress. To Ronald Reagan, Eureka College Commencement Address, May 9, 1982. Three John F. Kennedy, American University Commencement Address, June 10, 1963. For Ibid. Barack Obama. Iran nuclear accord announcement. Delivered July 14, 2015. Today, after 2 years of negotiations, the United States, together with our international partners, has achieved something that decades of animosity has not: a comprehensive, long-term deal with Iran that will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon. This deal demonstrates that American diplomacy can bring about real and meaningful change. Change that makes our country, and the world, safer and more secure. This deal is also in line with the tradition of American leadership. It's now more than 50 years since President Kennedy stood before the American people and said, "Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate." One He was speaking then about the need for discussions between the United States and the Soviet Union. Which led to efforts to restrict the spread of nuclear weapons. In those days, the risk was a catastrophic nuclear war between two superpowers. In our time, the risk is that nuclear weapons will spread to more and more countries. Particularly in the Middle East, the most volatile region in our world. Today, because America negotiated from a position of strength and principle. We have stopped the spread of nuclear weapons in this region. Because of this deal, the international community will be able to verify. That the Islamic Republic of Iran will not develop a nuclear weapon. This deal meets every single one of the bottom lines that we established when we achieved a framework earlier this spring. Every pathway to a nuclear weapon is cut off. And the inspection and transparency regime necessary to verify that objective will be put in place. Because of this deal, Iran will not produce the highly enriched uranium and weapons-grade plutonium that form the raw materials necessary for a nuclear bomb. Because of this deal, Iran will remove 2/3 of its installed centrifuges, the machines necessary to produce highly enriched uranium for a bomb and store them under constant international supervision. Iran will not use its advanced centrifuges to produce enriched uranium for the next decade. Iran will also get rid of 98% of its stockpile of enriched uranium. To put that in perspective, Iran currently has a stockpile that could produce up to 10 nuclear weapons. Because of this deal, that stockpile will be reduced to a fraction of what would be required for a single weapon. This stockpile limitation will last for 15 years. Because of this deal, Iran will modify the core of its reactor. In Iraq so that it will not produce weapons-grade plutonium. And it has agreed to ship the spent fuel from the reactor out of the country for the lifetime of the reactor. For at least the next 15 years, Iran will not build any new heavy water reactors. Because of this deal, we will, for the first time, be in a position to verify all of these commitments. That means this deal is not built on trust, it is built on verification. Inspectors will have 24/7 access to Iran's key nuclear facilities. Iran inspectors too will have access to Iran's entire nuclear supply chain, its uranium mines and mills. Its conversion facility, and its centrifuge manufacturing and storage facilities. This ensures that Iran will not be able to divert materials from known facilities to covered ones. Some of these transparency measures will be in place for 25 years. Because of this deal, inspectors will also be able to access any suspicious location. Put simply, the organization responsible for the inspections, the IAEA, will have access where necessary. when necessary. That arrangement is permanent. And the IAEA has also reached an agreement with Iran to get access that it needs to complete its investigation into the possible military dimensions of Iran's past nuclear research.